In Northwood, a siren at night isn't just noise, it's a call for help. It means someone nearby is in trouble, and the whole town feels it. People pause, listen, and wonder who needs saving. The siren is a promise. Help is coming. That promise is carried by volunteer EMTs, ordinary people who become heroes in emergencies. They leave their families, rush into the night, and bring calm to chaos. The community trusts them completely. Their presence is comfort, their skill, reassurance. The ambulance lights are a beacon of hope, painting the town in red and blue. For years, Northwood's EMTs were the town's guardians. Trust in them was the foundation of the emergency response system. But what if that trust is misplaced? What if the person sent to save you is the source of danger? The siren still wails, the lights still flash, but the promise is broken. This is the story of a town betrayed by the very person it trusted most. It's about how deep trust can be twisted and used as a weapon. A hero who was not a hero at all. The sound in the night would come to mean something far more chilling. Northwood's faith in its protectors would be shattered. The story begins with a siren, but it ends with a question. Who do you trust when the trusted become the threat? In Northwood, the answer would haunt them all. Dylan Frost was Northwood's model EMT, always first to volunteer, always ready to help. He was friendly, reliable, and seemed born for the job. People saw him as the perfect first responder, calm, skilled, and dedicated. He thrived on emergencies, eager to be at the center of the action. His colleagues admired his commitment. The community trusted him completely. But beneath the surface, Dylan's motivations were shifting. He craved the power that came with being the hero. The praise and admiration became addictive. Soon, helping wasn't enough. He wanted to create situations where he could shine. He learned to wear a mask of compassion, hiding a dangerous need for control. No one suspected the darkness behind his reassuring smile. Dylan played the role of hero so well that even those closest to him saw only the dedicated volunteer. His true nature was invisible, his secret safe behind the trust he'd earned. The town's faith in him became his greatest weapon. He was the hero with a hidden face, and no one saw the danger lurking beneath. Northwood's trust would let him operate in plain sight for far too long. The perfect volunteer was hiding something no one could imagine. The mask would not slip until it was too late. Dylan Frost was not just a hero, he was a master of deception. And Northwood would pay the price. Dylan joined the Northwood Volunteer Ambulance Corps at 21, eager to serve. He excelled in training, impressed instructors, and quickly became a trusted team member. He was always prepared, kept the ambulance spotless, and treated patients with kindness. Dylan volunteered for extra shifts, managed medical supplies, and checked equipment. He taught CPR at the high school and was seen as a role model. No one doubted his intentions. He was the most enthusiastic member of the team. His dedication gave him access and control over critical resources. The Corps was a tight-knit group, and trust was everything. Dylan's reliability made him indispensable. He took on tasks others avoided, further cementing his reputation. His commitment seemed genuine, his actions above reproach. But this position of trust gave him opportunities no one questioned. He was the last person anyone would suspect. Dylan's control over supplies and equipment would later become crucial. The model volunteer had built the perfect cover. His access and reputation allowed him to operate unchecked. The very qualities that made him a hero would enable his darkest acts. Northwood never saw the danger growing in their midst. The first warning signs were subtle. Strange calls, minor emergencies that didn't add up. Dylan was often the first on scene for these odd incidents. Then came equipment failures, a faulty defibrillator, an empty oxygen tank. Each time, Dylan had a plausible explanation. At first, no one wanted to believe a trusted volunteer could be at fault. But the coincidences piled up. Serious calls increased on Dylan's shifts, especially when he worked alone or with new partners. Older EMTs quietly reviewed call logs and noticed a troubling pattern. Deaths in the field had risen, many with Dylan as lead EMT. Still, suspicion was just a whisper. Emergencies are chaotic and things go wrong. Dylan's detailed reports always justified the outcomes. He appeared devastated by each loss, reinforcing his image as a caring professional. But for a few colleagues, the pattern was too clear to ignore. The hero of Northwood was starting to look like something else. The trust that protected him was now shielding something sinister. Doubt grew, but proof was elusive. The community's faith in Dylan blinded them to the possibility of betrayal. The cracks in his story were small, but they were growing. The perfect volunteer was no longer above suspicion. The pattern was there for those willing to see it. Northwood's faith was about to be tested. The truth was closing in. The case that changed everything involved George Peterson, an elderly man with heart problems. Dylan and a new volunteer responded. Dylan's report claimed a sudden cardiac arrest and failed CPR. But the autopsy found no heart attack, only traces of a powerful sedative not used by EMTs. The drug would have suppressed George's breathing, making survival impossible. Another case, a young woman's fatal asthma attack. Dylan arrived first, claimed her airway was too swollen for a breathing tube, but the tube he used was the wrong size, a basic error for an experienced EMT. Backup found her airway less swollen than Dylan described. These inconsistencies were small, but significant. They suggested the rescues were not genuine. Dylan was praised for his efforts, but the evidence told a different story. The failed rescues looked less like tragic accidents and more like staged events. The pattern of suspicious deaths was growing. Dylan's reputation shielded him, but the truth was surfacing. The hero's actions were finally under scrutiny. Northwood's trust was unraveling. The mask was slipping. How did Dylan avoid suspicion for so long? Trust. In a small town, heroes are above doubt. Colleagues dismissed concerns, preferring to believe in accidents over malice. Dylan exploited the chaos of emergencies, quick decisions, confusion, and inexperience. He manipulated situations, sabotaged equipment, and misreported facts without detection. His reports were detailed, professional, and convincing. Paperwork became his alibi. He often worked with new volunteers who never questioned his judgment. Their trust in him became his shield. Dylan's expertise and calm demeanor silenced doubts. He used the system's weaknesses to hide in plain sight. The perfect volunteer was untouchable until the cracks began to show. Northwood's faith in its heroes blinded them to the danger within. The truth was hidden behind trust. The investigation began quietly, sparked by a veteran paramedic, Maria Torres. She noticed the pediatric tube error and recalled earlier equipment failures. Maria reviewed Dylan's calls, finding a disturbing pattern: more deaths, more failures, always on his shifts. She brought her findings to the ambulance captain and police. At first, skepticism. Dylan was a model volunteer, but Maria's data was undeniable. Police launched a discreet investigation, reviewing phone records, supply logs, and autopsies. Missing sedatives matched Dylan's shifts. The evidence was clear: a pattern of sabotage and deception. With proof in hand, police made their move. Dylan Frost was arrested as he left his house. The hero's mask was gone. Northwood's nightmare had begun. News of Dylan's arrest stunned Northwood. The town was divided. Some defended him, others were horrified. As details emerged, disbelief turned to betrayal. Families of victims realized the rescuer they'd thanked had let loved ones die. Grief became anger. Trust was shattered. The ambulance corps was thrown into crisis. Volunteers felt guilt and shame. New protocols were rushed in, stricter drug tracking, double checks on equipment, anonymous reporting. The state launched its own investigation, mandating oversight for all volunteer services. The ambulance, once a symbol of hope, now inspired fear. Northwood was determined to prevent another tragedy. The changes were necessary, but the scars ran deep. The town's faith in its protectors would never be the same. The betrayal would haunt Northwood for years. Dylan Frost's story is a chilling lesson in the fragility of trust. We believe in uniforms and the people who wear them. But Northwood learned trust can be exploited by those with dark motives. Dylan hid behind his hero image, using trust as a shield. The damage went beyond victims. It infected the whole community. Rebuilding trust would take time, transparency, and reform. New protocols were a start, but emotional scars remained. The name Dylan Frost became a warning. This story forces us to question how well we know those we depend on. We must support our first responders, but also remain vigilant. Systems need checks and balances. Trust should never be blind. The safety of a community depends on balancing faith with accountability. Northwood's tragedy is a lesson for us all.